there's grace in everything. I always think it's our job to realize that life's happening for us, not to us, and to find how it's happening for us. That's our job. If we do that, then we have a magical life. If we don't, but if your energy's low and you're exhausted, then you don't find those empowering meanings. That's why, to me, you can't separate the mind and the body.
Yes,
You got to feed the mind and strengthen the body on a daily basis in some way. And if you do that, life can be pretty miraculous. If you want an extraordinary life, you don't have to do that much to have a good life for yourself. So it's like most of us, if you find something you care about more than yourself and you want to serve something, like you want to see what we do as a calling. It's not a work per se. If it's work, I don't need to work another day of my life, but I'm called. I think anybody who advises you to give up is probably the worst advice of all, because anything that you persist in long enough, you can find the answer to, I believe. I think it's understanding there's no replacement for persistence, as simplistic as that is. Mm-hmm. It's like, disappointment either destroys you or drives you. And you have to decide which one it's going to be. If you don't consciously decide, there's always going to be more BS for you to deal with. And if you want to master something, I think that's the thing most people don't do. They read a little bit, they listen a little bit, they dip in and out. They don't go day and night, night and day in total immersion in something that transforms them, and also something that makes them push through their fears. Because in the end, that's the only thing that stops me. Everybody's got a story. I didn't know this person. I don't have the resources. They have all the things they don't have. But if you're resourceful, you can get the money, you can get the time, you can get the energy, you can get anything you want. And you've got to get over your fear to be resourceful. So we do experiences that are so physiologically profound that those fears do not stop you anymore. And that's how we get people to get 10 years later, they're still transformed from an experience that was one weekend. My original teacher was Jim Rohn when I met him when I was 17. And I wanted to know why all my fathers were broke, because they were good men. I loved all four of my fathers. And I remember him saying, Tony, we're all equal as souls, but we're not equal in the marketplace. I was like, what does that mean? He said, well, think about it. He goes, you need to become more valuable if you want to have economic freedom. He said, you have to work on yourself more than anything else, and you have to work on it in a way where there's something you can do for others better than anyone else, or at least more, at a better quality. And he gave me an example of working at McDonald's, and he said, if you work at McDonald's, you make whatever it was in those days, $5 an hour, whatever it was. And he said, I go, yeah, but that seems so unfair. And he goes, yeah, and teachers, I gave the example of teachers, and there's these billionaires that make $1 billion a year, hedge fund guy, And he said, Tony, the guy you just mentioned, he provided a 40% return last year, and that went to nonprofits and everything else. He said, that means those organizations double their money almost every 2 years. He is adding massive value, hundreds of $1 billion, so they made $1 billion. He goes, this person is doing a job that anyone can learn in 20 minutes or half a day. So it's a beginning job. He said, you got to think of it as one thing. It's all about adding value. How can you do more for others than anybody else in the world? And that stuck with me. I was just like, I decided I wanted to do more for others than anybody in the world. In order to do that, I had to have certain skills, and I went after those skills, and I still do. It's a never-ending thing. If you think you're a master, you're full of it, right? So I think that's probably some of the best advice I've received, at least on life and business and direction, and it affected my mission. But I think the ability to manage your own mind and emotions is probably one of the single most important. And maybe the second is the ability to influence others, because that's what makes you a leader. And hopefully you're doing that for a higher good, because there are all kinds of leaders, as you know. But I don't think most people are very good at emotional fitness. Most people are just not as happy as they could be. Dalio, Carl Icahn, Warren Buffett. And out of 50 of them, and again, it's in my judgment, I could be completely wrong, and I've spent a lot of time with them. Some have become really good friends. There's probably 4 or 5 that are really happy people. You go, oh, well, money makes people unhappy. Money, it has nothing to do with money. Money makes you more of what you are. It just magnifies. If you're mean, you have more to be mean with. If you're kind, you have more to give. But I think that most people are they haven't learned to manage what's going inside. Doesn't matter how much abundance they have, they're still unhappy. They had everything, except they didn't master what's going on here and here. And this is why you lived your life the way you have as well. Unless you can push through discomfort, most things that are going to give you the greatest reward require discomfort initially, right? And the discomfort, it's like, my original teacher, Jim Rohn, used to always say, there's 2 pains in life, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. He goes, discipline weighs ounces, regret weighs tons, And so I've trained myself to do that. And then I meditate. Then I always make an acknowledgement call briefly, or leave a voicemail for someone just to spark the day. And then the first thing I do is always whatever is the most difficult. Because then you have momentum for your day. And when you train your brain to do what's difficult first, then emotional fitness just comes naturally. And more importantly, so does achievement, so does your ability to contribute to other people. Problems are a sign of life, and all they are challenges to be solved. And what makes you a great leader is your ability to solve problems or teach teams to build a culture where they can solve problems. And so it gives me this tremendous creativity and flexibility, but I've got the base of energy to make it work. My worst day was my best day. The most painful day, the day where I felt like I could do the least, where I felt impotent, led me to have new understandings, new skills, new capacities, new drives, new hunger. Would I really be feeding 100 million people a year, 100 million meals a year if I was well fed as a child? Probably not. You know, I'd love to believe I'm such a perfect person, but no, I just know what suffering feels like, so I don't want anybody else to suffer, you know? I think sometimes the suffering experiences of our life, if we don't let them crush us, we let them drive us, they actually become the best day in your life. And taking your worst day and making your best day is a beautiful target for anybody. I always say it's like, if it's about your health, if it's about your relationship, if it's about raising your children, if it's about your spiritual development, those are areas where people should be your coach, not your commander. Get lots of input and you decide, because they could be sincere and be sincerely wrong. If you're wrong, at least you learn from your own experience. My thing is valuing the emotional home and making it the richest place possible inside, because that's the only thing you can control. Because your values control what you focus on. If you're security driven and you're here down in my basement right now, you're like, where's the exit, right? You came down a slide, like, how do I get out of here, right? If you're adventure driven, you don't care. You don't even know where it is. So your focus is controlled by your values and your belief systems. Right? The meaning of things is controlled by your belief systems. So those three decision-making things, you know, what I'm going to focus on, what does it mean, what I'm going to do, shift. And one good example of this, Jay, is, and maybe your audience can relate to this, is if we just took three patterns. So let's say focus, most people have a focus either on what they have or what's missing. We all do both. But what do you think most people focus on more often, what they have or what's missing?
What's missing. That's
right. Now, even achievers do that. Like somebody who's not successful. It's one of the reasons you see these achievers that no matter what they do, it's never enough. Just think about it. If you're always focusing what's missing from your life, how can you sustain happiness? It's software that will not allow that. You'll feel happy for a little moment and then you'll notice it's missing again. What do you think's more often people focus on, what they can control or
what they can't control?
Yeah. In my seminars, it's can control. That's why they go. I want to learn how to take control of my body or my finances or my business, whatever it is. So it's the opposite. But the average person, it's what they can't control. And with COVID, there's so much you can't control around you that people really sunk in that. Well, how's someone going to feel? Just everyone think about it. If you're constantly focused on what's missing from your life and what you can't control. And then I'll add one more. Do you focus more on the past, the present, or the future? We all do all three, but we tend to have one we focus more on. Where do you think more people focus?
Past.
That's right. And achievers focus on the future and happy people on the present. If you're going to be an achiever, the ideal is the present so you experience it, anticipating the future so you can shape your life, right?